In the year 1219, the winds of destiny carried the thundering hooves of the Mongol horsemen westward, toward the wealthy lands of the Khwarazmian Empire. This was no minor raid or passing incursion. It was a storm, one that would engulf cities, topple rulers, and shift the balance of power across Eurasia. The story of the Mongols' conquest of the Khwarazmian Empire is not only the tale of two civilizations colliding, but of how one fateful decision plunged a flourishing realm into fire and ruin, forever altering the course of history. The stage was set in Central Asia. To the east, Genghis Khan had forged the Mongol tribes into a war machine without equal, tempered by discipline, hardened by the harsh steppe, and commanded by a leader of relentless vision. To the west, the Khwarazmian Empire under Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad stretched from the steppes of Transoxiana to the Persian Gulf, ruling over ancient cities, Samarkand, Bukhara, Nishapur, and Merv, cities whose names evoked centuries of Persian glory and Islamic scholarship. The Khwarazmian court glittered with wealth, its bazaars filled with silks, spices, and goods that flowed along the arteries of the Silk Road. Yet beneath this splendor lay arrogance and political fragility. The Shah commanded vast armies, but they were fragmented, reliant on mercenary contingents and local governors whose loyalties were fickle. The collision began not with armies but with merchants. In 1218, Genghis Khan, already master of northern China and the steppe, sought trade and diplomacy. He sent a caravan of Muslim merchants under Mongol protection to the city of Otrar on the frontier of the Khwarazmian realm. The goods were rich, the intentions peaceful, but Inalchuk, the governor of Otrar, accused the merchants of spying. With the Shah's approval, he seized the entire caravan, executed its members, and confiscated their wares. Outraged yet restrained, Genghis Khan sent 3 envoys to the Shah demanding redress. The Shah, in a fatal display of pride, had one of them executed, the others mutilated, and sent his defiance back to the Khan. In that moment, a spark was thrown into dry tinder. Genghis Khan, who once offered friendship, now swore vengeance. He declared, "For the murder of my envoys, for the blood of my merchants, I shall exact retribution. There shall be no fortress that can save you, no city wall that can shield your people." The buildup was swift and terrifying. In 1219, Genghis Khan mustered an army of perhaps 150,000 men, horse archers, heavy cavalry, siege engineers, and Chinese specialists in catapults and trebuchets. Divided into disciplined tumens, each of 10,000 men, the Mongols advanced like rivers splitting into tributaries, converging on the Khwarazmian heartlands. The Shah, though commanding a theoretically larger force, was plagued by mistrust of his generals and the disunity of his realm. He spread his armies thin, hopping to defend multiple fronts. But the Mongols thrived on mobility, deception, and psychological warfare. Their banners darkened the horizon, their drums echoed across the plains, and with each step forward, they unleashed terror meant to break resistance before battle was even joined. The climax came with the great sieges of the empire's proudest cities. Otrar, the site of the original insult, was besieged for 5 long months. The Mongols encircled it, cut off supplies, and relentlessly battered its walls. When the defenders finally faltered, Otrar was stormed, its governor executed by being melted in molten silver, a punishment chosen for his greed. Samarkand, jewel of Central Asia, fell next. Despite a garrison of over 100,000 men, the defenders were betrayed from within, as Turkic mercenaries defected to the Mongols. Siege engines hurled stones against its citadel, while sappers undermined its walls. The city surrendered in 1220, and Genghis Khan spared only artisans and scholars, deporting them eastward to enrich his empire. Tens of thousands of common inhabitants were slaughtered or enslaved. Bukhara soon followed, opening its gates after brief resistance. Entering the city's mosque, Genghis Khan reportedly declared to the trembling clerics, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." With these words, the conqueror positioned himself as an instrument of divine wrath, striking terror deeper than any sword. One by one, the empire's cities burned. Merv, famed as a pearl of the world, was annihilated. Some chroniclers claim 700,000 were slain. Nishapur suffered an equally gruesome fate when, after the death of Genghis Khan's son-in-law during the siege, his enraged widow ordered every man, woman, and child put to death. The Mongols left behind pyramids of skulls, mute monuments to their fury. Meanwhile, Shah Mohammed, the man who had provoked this cataclysm, proved incapable of resistance. Instead of rallying his forces, he fled westward, pursued relentlessly by Mongol detachments. Hounded from city to city, abandoned by his governors, he wandered in despair until he died in 1220 on an island in the Caspian Sea, broken and forgotten. His son, Jalal ad-Din, attempted to resist, rallying what forces he could. In 1221, he fought a desperate battle on the banks of the Indus River against the Mongols. Defeated, he leapt into the river and escaped into India, a fugitive prince clinging to the last shreds of his dynasty. The aftermath was devastation on a scale few could imagine. Cities that had stood for centuries were erased in days. Irrigation systems that sustained fertile fields were destroyed, leaving deserts in their wake. The Silk Road, once a vibrant artery of trade and culture, was strewn with ruins. Survivors told tales of fire, of endless slaughter, of a wrath that seemed almost divine in its magnitude. Persian chroniclers like Juvani would later write in horror of the destruction. They came, they uprooted, they burned, they slew, and what they could not destroy, they shattered. The Khwarazmian Empire, once a proud bridge between East and West, ceased to exist. Yet in destruction, the Mongols forged a new order. Their conquest of Khwarazmia opened the gates to Persia, Mesopotamia, and beyond. It gave the Mongols control over the vital trade routes of Central Asia, filling their coffers and extending their influence into the Islamic world. For the Muslim world, the shock was profound. A mighty empire had fallen not to rival caliphates, but to a people from the far eastern steppes, whose name now became synonymous with annihilation. It was a warning to every ruler from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. None were beyond the reach of Genghis Khan. The legacy of this conquest would echo for centuries. It marked the Mongols not merely as raiders, but as empire builders, capable of dismantling great civilizations and replacing them with their own dominion. It revealed the fatal cost of arrogance and poor leadership, as Shah Mohammed's folly invited a storm that consumed his realm, and it demonstrated the terrifying efficiency of Mongol warfare, their mobility, their psychological tactics, their ruthless punishment of betrayal. For historians, the fall of the Khwarazmian Empire stands as one of the most dramatic collapses in recorded history, a civilization extinguished in a matter of years. Today, when we look upon the ruins of Samarkand's old walls or walk the plains where Otrar once stood, we hear faint echoes of that storm. We are reminded of the fragility of empires, of how quickly power and wealth can dissolve when hubris blinds leaders to reality. The Mongols' conquest of Khwarazmia remains a lesson in the consequences of pride, disunity, and underestimating an enemy who offered friendship before war. This has been a story of vengeance, conquest, and the shattering of worlds. Behind every word you've heard lies hours of research and careful reconstruction, drawn from chronicles, archaeology, and scholarship to bring the past alive. If you value this effort to tell history in all its depth and humanity, consider supporting so that more stories, true, powerful, and unforgettable, can continue to be told.